Hey, it's Sheldon Primus. I'm going to do a short video on OSHA's final rule for tracking workplace illnesses. So it's the record keeping rule. And a lot of people have heard of some record keeping, just thoughts, all the different type of guidances that's going to go into this. So I thought let me do one video, short one, just to let everybody know what to expect. So a little bit about myself. I've been in the safety sector for roughly around just over 20 years. I'm the owner and partner of Shellbro Safety. I'm an authorized OSHA instructor for the 10 and 30 hour class in general industry and construction. I'm a certified occupational safety specialist with a master in public administration and a concentration in environmental policies. And I am president-elect of the South Florida chapter of ASSE. So right now, I'll let you know as a disclosure, you're on my porch with me. So you're going to have background noises. You might even have their testing. FPL really close was testing. So I had alarms go off earlier, and then neighbor has a daycare, so you may have those noises. But hey, this kind of guy I am. Just going to get you right where my home is, so you can feel like you're on my home. So first we had a record keeping change back in January 2015, and that is where they separated the fat cat. So fatalities is the fat portion, cat was catastrophes. The fatalities, 8 hours if there was a fatality in a facility, then you would have to notify our OSHA within those 8 hours. And then there was only a criteria for doing a notification if there were 3 hospitalizations. That changed. Now, within 24 hours, OSHA has to be notified if there is one inpatient hospitalization, somebody gets assigned to bed, they get some treatment, one loss of eye, and one amputation. So that's now the catastrophe version of this. You don't have to report if it was over a motor vehicle accident, trains, planes, automobiles, any of those type accidents. You have to record, but you do not need to report. So those reporting criteria is a little bit different in that way. The overview for the new rule changes is OSHA is going to electronic just everything. They want to make electronic because it's going to be easier for them and the compliance officers to really decipher information, to investigate who actually needs to have any compliance. So that's really what the rule is going to do. So some heavy, or even not heavy, more high risk employers, they're the ones that are going to have to start recording injuries more than everyone else. If you're in a medium size business, medium is 20 to 200 and 299, I believe. Well, it's in there. I've got it written out because my memory is escaping right now. But if you're in that medium range, you have to be high risk. Then you're going to be required to submit your reports annually. However, if you're above 250, so I guess that minimum is 20 to 249. So if you're above 250, you're still going to have to report annually to OSHA. So that's what this new rule is. So let's tell you the heart of this new rule. So Dr. Michaels, who is the Assistant Secretary of Labor and in charge of OSHA, he says our new rule will nudge employers to prevent work injuries, to show investors, job seekers, customers, and the public they operate safe and well managed facilities. Access to injury data will also help OSHA better target compliance assistance, enforce resources, and enable big data researchers to apply their skills for making workplaces safer. So that means companies now are going to have to submit their data, and it's going to be public. Sure, they will protect workers and they'll hide some public uh, just names and details, so they'll remove those things, but they will make it public. So the electronic submittals are going to be available for everyone, competitors to see, for people who may be your clients. They will be able to see what kind of workplace injuries you have. So it'll be great for you if you do have, a very manageable or even low workplace injury rates, then that'll look really good for you. If not, then it's going to kind of nudge, as Dr. Michael says, push you to make sure that your public perception is also what is truly safe with the workers, so the workers will be protected. 20 to 249 if you are a high risk employer, and that's your size, your workforce size. Next year, July 1st, 2017, you're going to have to submit your 300A form, which is just numbers. It's a summary form of what your injuries were like before. Then the year following, it's also a 300A in July 1st, 2018. Then in 2019, that compliance date shifts a little. So then you're going to have March 2nd, 2019 as being your new compliance date. And of course, if you miss compliance dates, then that again could be something like a citable offense. However, if you have 250 or more employees, you're considered a large employer, and you're going to have to submit electronically your 300, which is your first notice of injury forms, your 301, which is your incident form, and then your summary 300A. So that 300A is the first thing to get submitted in July of next year, 2017. Then your 300, 301, 300A forms in 2018 have to be submitted by July 1st. And then that deadline shifts to March 2nd, 2019. So you'll have the summer for next year and the year after, and then it's going to be in that that springtime in March 2nd. Spring, I'm in Florida, so spring for me is almost, spring and summer is year round. But March 2nd is that deadline you're looking for. So as I mentioned, OSHA's data is going to be public, and the personally identifiable information, PII, will be removed before everything's released to the public. And if you're in a state and you have a state OSHA plan, the states must adopt this change within 6 months of it being public as a final rule in the Federal Register, which it has. So this is the transition period right now for state OSHA plans to come in compliance with federal OSHA. Here are some of the high-risk industries. I'm not going to name them all, but I'll keep it up here for a little while so you can kind of take a look at what these high-risk industries are. You can see right off the bat, agriculture, utilities, construction, manufacturing. You guys in that sector are notoriously high-risk sectors, so you can see that numbers right off the bat. And there are 65 of these companies, or I should say 65 of these industries that are in there. Postal Service is in there. They are high risk, so that one's the SIC code you're looking at, 4911, and a SIC code is this. It's your standard industrial classification code. It's how you are grouped with your competitors, with anyone that does the same activities that you do. Here's the next page. If you do remediation, waste management, you're in here. Hospital services, very high risk industries. So again, this is people, if you have 20 employees up to 249 employees, then you'll have to make sure that you comply. One thing, and before I get to this, I'm going to go back a little. So this electronic submittal for 250 employees or more is only for those industries that are already subjected to OSHA's 1904 rules. So if you are one of those exempt or partially exempt entities at 250 or more, you're okay. You don't have to submit data. This is only for people who are already in the requirement to submit their data electronically. So I want to make sure I clarify that. Here's another rule that's getting a lot of attention: the anti-retaliation or whistleblower protection. So if you have a worker that's injured and the first thing you want to do is send them out to get their drug testing and their screening done, if you're doing that to comply with a rule, a state rule, a workers' comp rule, then that's okay. However, if you're just doing that as a matter of principle to see if the worker was impaired or not, so you don't have to cover that worker, OSHA's saying that could be a violation in the Whistleblower Act. It would be retaliation, retaliatorial action against that worker, because in their mind they're saying if the worker has been aware of a hazard but is scared to say something about that hazard because they know if they're injured they're going to be drug tested, then you are creating a situation where that hazard will exist, and therefore they're calling that an anti-retaliation action, that they need to protect that worker because you are retaliating against them, their rights, if you are going to automatically send them for a screening. Another thing that's come up recently, and this isn't specifically for record keeping, however, almost simultaneously when the record keeping rules came out, you had this change. Congress now has changed some things. So you're looking right now at a fine that was given to Ashley Furniture for $11,000 for a failure to report a hospitalization that was an amputation. Uh, and they also had a couple other failures as well. So the 300 log and the 301s were either incomplete or incorrect. We don't know. But that's a link there to that citation. So what happens is now the fine structure is so much that they got fined 11,000 at the current structure. Congress has enabled something that means that OSHA now could fine a little bit higher. But before I get to that, let's talk about your priorities of inspection. Imminent danger number one, a fatality or catastrophe that's being reported to OSHA. So now we know a record keeping reporting practice can now be considered that second priority for an inspection. So that opens the door to OSHA to come into previously closed doors, which were manufacturing maybe or warehousing situation. Construction, OSHA could see you while they're driving by. They could see someone that is not actually compliant with any of the construction rules. But general industry, that's a little bit different. They have to sneak in, if you will. Let's not say sneak in, but they had to come in with either one of these four priorities that you're seeing right now. So those priorities and those violation types actually came with a penalty type. So for a willful, you would get up to 70,000, serious up to 7,000, other than serious could be up to 7,000, a repeat violation up to 70,000. But with this new rule that Congress has enacted, it's called the Bipartisan Budget Act of 2015. Congress is mandating that several of the regulatory departments, including OSHA, they will have to increase their fine structure. So what you're seeing here is a representation of about 78% increase in their fines. So if you were looking at that 70,000 max violation, it is now going to be increased to 124.7. So that is going to be a big number to look at. In your Field Operations Manual, FOM, Chapter 6 outlines those penalties and citations, and that's something that you should get. Make sure you get your hands on Field Operation Manual, and I'll show you how to do that at the end of this video. So this is a perfect storm in citations. You've got increased regulation, the attitude of shaming that are holding businesses accountable. So you'll see what's called quick takes if you go to OSHA.gov, and probably the top middle, not directly middle, but you scroll down just a little, there's a opt-in form for OSHA's Quick Takes. It's a bi-monthly newsletter. So in that bi-monthly newsletter, OSHA names names and penalties for different companies, and that is, Dr. Michaels had previously referred to that as shaming, and just to make sure businesses are held accountable. So this, with the public access of information, is going to really push the hands of businesses to make sure that even if you aren't doing anything malicious to your workers and you just may have truly some ignorance because of not knowing, that you're going to be forced to send your compliance officer to get certified in the class, or you're going to have someone who's knowledgeable of some of these OSHA rules. So I have here some of your resources. And the OSHA Act is the one that you're seeing the picture of. That's the power that OSHA gets to enforce is coming from that act. So what I have here, and I'm going to switch over to my screen that has my websites. And so right here is your Field Operations Manual. There's a brand new one, August 2016, and actually last October they had a compliance letter 159, and now we're up to compliance letter 0200 160. So if you were to type into your search box in OSHA.gov FOM 160, this is the document you're going to have, and in this document they'll show you everything that you need to know about violations, about what your penalties would, what makes a serious violation, what makes an other than serious. So get really familiar with this so you can protect yourselves. I'm going to scroll down a little bit more, show you section 6, so you can see the highlight of that, and I'm not going to show you. Here you go, is what classifies your different violations. It tells you a little bit about your general duty clause and what that means. That's the 5A1, so you have to look that up, but that's a whole other video. But 5A1 is a very important thing to understand. So this is what you'll find in your Field Operations Manual. Chapter 6 is about debt collecting and how to get that money to OSHA. Another one that you're going to be looking for on record keeping is the compliance letter 0200135. So that's with your record keeping policies. The next is my OSHA Act that I showed you. So if you were to type in, well, actually go to OSHA.gov, go under the tab that says publication, and then you're going to scroll down to the O section, and you want to print out a copy of the OSHA Act, or you could actually get that sent to you through a cart, and you fill your cart with your document, and they'll ship it to you. It's a posted page. You don't have to pay for anything. You could get 5 different things on the OSHA.gov publication, and you could get 5 copies of each of those things. So that's another note. Here is question and answers for record keeping. So that's my frequently asked questions section. You can see it's 143 pages. There's a whole bunch of things on record keeping that you should know about. So I will make sure I show you that. And if I post this on YouTube, which I probably will, what I'll do is I'll make sure I put that on the bottom portion so you can link to that. So I want to thank you for spending a little time with me and get you some information on that. And I'll make sure that I'll listen to any comments that you may have regarding that. If you need to reach out to me, you could paste a comment on the in the YouTube site. I'll make sure I do that. Now that I mentioned it, let's make sure I do that. My company with a partner, which is Kevin Yarbrough. Kevin Yarbrough used to be the assistant area director of the Tampa office of OSHA. So Kevin and I'm the shell part of Shellbro. Kevin is the bro part because his last name is Yarbrough. So we come together, and if you want to contact us, you have shellbro.com. You got our phone number, and then also our Facebook page, facebook.com/shellbrosafety. We do mock OSHA audits. We do outreach training for construction and general industry. We have an online safety culture transition program, written safety programs if you need that, or a compliance assistant. And then we also sit with people and we do informal conferences with OSHA. So if you do have a informal conference that you need to do, we'll fight for you. We'll make sure that we see what we can do to reduce that citation. So again, I want to thank you for your time. I hope this is helpful to you. And please leave me a comment or send me an email. You got sheldon@shellbro.com, and let me know what your thought process is on this. And I forgot to mention one more thing. I'm in the process of writing an OSHA record keeping course. So if you have any requests, or if you have any kind of input that you would like to see in an OSHA record keeping course, just send me a little note and say what will be advantageous to you. So I'll definitely add the new rule as part of the course, but there's so much nuances with record keeping. I want to make sure that everybody knows how to protect themselves, especially now that OSHA is going to be able to see those records. So thank you for your time. This is truly me saying goodbye.